Hello, and welcome to a Life Too Sweet podcast. My name is Dana, and I am a Christian. And I always ask this question because we talk about that there's God, the Spirit, and Jesus, right? Three different, right? I wanted to understand, and I ask this question often as a Bible-thumping Christian. How do I live in the Spirit? I remember that's a question that I was asking. And I noticed listening to the preachers, they never talked about the Spirit. And so I thought that was kind of weird. It's always Jesus. It's never about God. It's never about the Spirit. It's never about living in the Spirit. And I'm reading the Bible, and I'm trying to change. I'm going through all this stuff, and nothing's changing. I don't know how to live in the Spirit. And so I'm just kind of remembering some things today, and that's why I decided to do this podcast. So this is what I'm remembering. I'm remembering asking, how do I live in the Spirit? And I remember somebody telling me, you have to trust in God. And then I asked, well, how do I trust? You just trust. And I always remember this person saying, do you trust him? Do you trust him? I'm like, no, I don't trust him. How do I trust him? Nobody's answering the question. Nobody knows the answer to the question, is what I started thinking. So that was a question I always asked, how do I live in the Spirit? And I remember reading a book. Actually, an old friend of mine told me about this. And he's the one that got me into the Bible-thumping Christian, brought me to church and everything. And he gave me this guy, Andrew Murray. And I'm listening to this guy. And he's talking about living in the Spirit, and that, he's given all the scriptures talking about living in the Spirit. He's saying that that people are carnal, and he's bringing up all these scriptures, and I'm like, okay, I see that. But I'm like, he's never answering, how do you live in the Spirit? And so I remember listening or whatever and saying that, but never fully getting the answer to how to do it. And so I remember, I don't know, maybe like 6 months after I first listened to it, it actually was on YouTube, and I listened to it, and it was something about the Spirit, like living in the Spirit. And I always would go back to that video because I wanted to live in the Spirit. I wanted it. It wasn't that the preacher was telling me. It wasn't that my friends were telling me. I mean, I went to church and I went to Bible study, and nobody was telling me this. Talking about the Spirit, never. And I did have one friend tell me about, oh yeah, that's why I don't like going to Calvary, the church that I go to. They don't talk about the Spirit. But then you go to the places to talk about the Spirit, and they act all crazy, and they're still the same. And I noticed that. I wasn't changing. And I wasn't living in this Spirit. And I didn't have perfect love. And I didn't have perfect peace. And I'm thinking, well, if this Spirit is in me to guide me, why am I not changing, Why am I not living in this Spirit, right? And so that's a question that I asked. And I realized, going back to even when I was younger, I was brought up Catholic. And I would go to Sunday school. And I was the baby out of the kids. So my mom was like, listen, just go to Sunday school for your grandma. She's a Catholic. And just do it for her, right? And so, of course, my mom's in control. I got to do what she says. I'm the baby. I listen to whatever my mom tells me to do, so I do it. Other kids got out of it, but I'm stuck because mom works on me. So I'm stuck. I'm going to this Sunday school, and I absolutely hate it. I'm going to tell you, I absolutely hate it. So I'm young. I don't know how old I am, maybe 12, 13, and I'm asking questions. I ask questions about everything. I don't just listen. I don't just read the newspaper and say, okay, this is what it says. It must be true. I ask questions. It's just been my personality ever since I can remember. Ever since I was young, I asked questions. And I remember being in Sunday school and asking about this whole Jesus is God, and how is Jesus God if there's a God, and how do you explain that? And they wouldn't even explain it to me. At least the Christians of today will try to explain this. But they didn't even explain it to me. And I'm going to tell you, it was upsetting me, and it turned me off right away. I was done. I said, there's no way I'm ever going to go to Catholic school. These people are nuts. They don't answer my questions. They tell me you got to believe this, and it's like there's a teacher up there teaching me, and I just got to go by what they say. And how do I know the answers? I mean, there's got to be something to show me. It really has to be me to be able to see it, to be able to understand it. There's got to be some type of way. And I never understood that. I never understood, like I said, how to live in the Spirit, and who God was, and who Jesus is, and what the Holy Spirit does. And I'm trying to go, okay, if I believe now, I'm a Bible-thumping Christian. And I'm believing in this Trinity thing. But none of it made any sense. But I just believed it because people told me it. None of it, none of who God was made sense, but I wasn't living the lifestyle I lived before. And so this was like my new drug. My new God was going to church, was fellowshipping with people, but I was never getting the answers. And it's weird because I kept thinking, I've been telling people about this Andrew Murray guy, and nobody's listening. It's almost like nobody wants to know the truth. They just want to feel good. And that's kind of what I'm getting now, what I'm feeling. And I don't really know it 100% because I don't understand that type of personality. I don't understand if somebody says it, I believe it. I don't really understand that. And I'm noticing that many people are that way. And I've always noticed that I was a little different. And I thought maybe, it's my ego. I think I'm better than people. I kind of put those two maybe together. But as I'm becoming closer to God and as he's taking away my ego, I'm realizing that that's not my ego. And that really was God showing me, because I was asking questions. And I'm realizing that seeking is asking questions. Seeking is not just saying, yes, somebody told me. And I noticed that I still do that. I notice I still do that if I respect somebody. And there were a few people that I've respected in my day. Jordan Peterson was one. And then I started, once he had issues mentally, I started thinking, wait a minute, maybe he's just like the rest of us. And now I do listen to Jesse Lee Peterson I talk about. And I do notice sometimes I just listen to what he says. And I try to go, wait, don't just listen, because he brings up things and then they make sense. And I'm like, yeah, but is it logical sense from Satan or is it spiritual sense? And I'm learning to kind of get that. But I've always wanted to know things that were kind of outside of what they were teaching. So like if I'm going to church and they're teaching certain things, they started teaching about the Trinity, not the Trinity, that we're all supposed to go jump up, go in the air, and he's going to bring us up. And I'm like, I don't know if I believe that. And then I'm thinking he's returning again. Jesus is returning again. And I'm like, didn't he already return? And what does that mean that he already returned and he died? What did it mean when he said it's over, when he was on the cross? All these things never made sense. And you know what? I didn't ask too many people too many questions, but I did always, like I said, I asked those two questions. I asked, how do we live in the Spirit? And I didn't really understand the Trinity. And I fully wasn't sure if I believed it. And maybe I was saying that I believed in the Trinity, but I didn't fully believe in it. And now let me bring up one other thing that kind of I've noticed too. Because now that I know things, I know that it's not just I believe it. Like believing it is intellectual to me. Believing in something, this is how I see it. Now that I've been turning over towards God and he's doing things for me. So I know that it's not me. I know that it's true because God has revealed it and you see it it's so tangible. That would be the word, is so tangible. But when it comes to believing, I feel like that's not tangible. And maybe that's kind of how I'm explaining it and how I see it. And I've heard Jesse Lee Peterson explain it totally different. And this is how I can see it easier for me, which makes sense. That intellectually I can tell myself I believe it. And then I have to say it a bunch of times for me to start believing it. But I know deep down, I'm not 100% sure. Right? So that's how I noticed, like, okay, I believe it, but I'm not 100% sure. But when it comes, it's like 98% sure. And then as a Christian and as I get things revealed, it's like knowledge. It's just total knowledge. There's no, I'm not sure if I believe in it. There's none of that. It's just knowledge, bam, is embedded. And so as I was going along being a Bible-thumping Christian, I never fully believed it. And another thing people were telling me were, you need to keep reading the Bible. You need to keep reading the Bible. Keep reading. And I'm like, I've been reading. Nothing's changing. I was like, well, maybe I'm not memorizing it. And so I got to memorize it. And that wasn't happening. And I'm like, I do believe that if God wants me to do something, he would make it happen, kind of thing. And that wasn't happening. And I'm like, well, I'm reading this Bible. I'm supposed to believe in this Bible, but it's not happening to me. And then I start to realize that what I'm seeing from the Bible is not what the Christians fully say it is. And it almost keeps them making an excuse. Because like, if I'm not perfect and I make mistakes and I still sin, then Jesus cannot be the representative of man on earth. today because it doesn't work with what's going on in my life, you know? And making Jesus God makes that kind of work. Because you can say, well, it's not going to happen until I die, and I'm going to keep working towards it. But I noticed that I was working towards it, right? Working towards it, and nothing was changing. I'm like, okay, I'm going to the Celebrate Recovery. As I've said before, it's a 12-step Christian-based recovery program. I'm working this, and I'm thinking this is going to work, and nothing's changing. I'm like, but I stopped using drugs. I stopped drinking. I stopped going out and partying. But then I'm realizing today that that was my drug. You know, that was my God, right? Living out in the world, trying to meet people, you know, be cool. And then I get to go to church, and then now I'm cool again, you know? And so I got that, but it still wasn't changing me, right? That inside missing piece was not fulfilled. Just like I kept trying to fulfill it on the outside. I kept trying to fulfill it from something over there and the Bible now. And it wasn't fulfilling it, right? I'm trying to say I'm trying to live in the Spirit. And it's not. It's like either this book, the Bible, is lying, or I got something wrong. I'm missing something. And I think it's because I kept asking questions that God was revealing here and there and there. And especially when I was a Bible-thumping Christian, God was revealing things to me to open me up and get me to ask the right question. And I started realizing that I was more angry. I never realized that I had anger so deep, but then I started realizing it. I noticed that certain things shouldn't be. Like I just felt when things would go wrong, anything, I drop something, I'd be mad. Say I'm trying to open a jar and it doesn't open, I'm mad. I'm starting to get pissed off. I can feel my anger coming up. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This should not be happening. Now, I always thought like anger was normal a little bit. And I knew deep down that it wasn't. Something was wrong with that. But the world is telling me that this is normal. People get upset when people hurt you. But it was like I wanted revenge, you know, and I knew that was wrong. And I do believe that we inherently know right from wrong. I know that because I knew it was wrong. I knew things were wrong. And now that I'm returning back to God, He's revealing all those things that I know that are wrong. And I know that doesn't come from me because I can do nothing, which I've seen that. Because everything I thought I was doing on my own, I'm realizing it's the ego. And it's crazy because God has really been revealing more of my ego and taking it away. And every little thing, oh my God, it's just so crazy how I think I can control everything. How I think I'm going to tell myself what's going to happen later on and how I'm going to handle it. And now I'm starting to see that in the world, how they believing something that's not even happened yet. I was watching MSNBC. Yeah, that was very hard, but I did it. I was watching MSNBC for 2 minutes, and there was a guy on there, a white male, saying that Trump almost got his vice president murdered. Did any of that happen? Did anything like that happen? No. We're projecting something that could have happened. Yeah, somebody could have shot President Trump there. Somebody could have run up to President Trump and hit him. That could have happened. He was so mean, this could have happened. You know what I'm saying? I could tell you anything could have happened. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. It never happened. And they kept saying things like that. And I'm thinking, this doesn't make any sense. And I'm listening to him like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Now, would I feel that way without God taking away that part of my ego? Because I would think the same. I used to think like that. Where I'm like, well, if I don't take my shower this way, I'm going to miss washing this. Like I noticed the stupid things in the shower. Like, man, I'm trying to control everything. And I really think that if I double wash one part of my body, that it's going to be better and I'm going to be cleaner. And just like thoughts, like they're just little things. I mean, it seems kind of crazy, but I'm starting to realize every little thing that I thought I was in control of, I have no control over. I'm like almost making myself crazy. You know, people who have that issue where they want to like wash too much that makes sense because we think we know what's right and what's wrong, what's going to work with us. In that sense, I have no clue. But there are certain things like the 10 Commandments. I know that I knew that, covenant your wife, all the things that it says, I just inherently knew they were wrong. But with stuff like this, like, these are things that I'm making up in my head. And I'm listening to this guy talk about that he almost got them killed. He almost got his vice president murdered. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't even know if he was there. I don't even know that part. But other things too, like he said something like he wanted the senators all to be killed. Like he wanted that, and they almost got killed, and they almost all this stuff that like just made up. That's made up. It's made up. Seriously, that's totally made up. If I'm going to project something that's going to happen that didn't happen, that's a projection of something that never happened. It's not real. It's fake. It's an illusion of reality. That did not happen. But him saying that, he really believes that that's what it was all about. You see how like Satan could just tell us these crazy thoughts about what could happen tomorrow or what happened yesterday and brings that back up, and how ridiculous that sounds? That never occurred to me before. I just thought, hey, that makes sense. That could have happened. Oh my God, that's what he wanted. And then I'm like, off to the races. It's like, just tell me that doesn't sound crazy. Seriously, tell me that doesn't sound crazy. But we all do it because we listen to our minds. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be thinking this stuff. I wouldn't want to think about my past like 20 years from now, or from 20 years ago, or something that never happened. You know, well, what if happens if I get COVID and I don't wear a mask? And what if I wear a mask and then I get, like, how do I know what's going to happen with COVID? How do I know if I'm going to get COVID? How do I know what's going to happen if I get the vaccine or I don't get the vaccine? I have no clue. I'm just not going to get the vaccine. And I'm going to wear a mask when they make me wear a mask, and I'm going to live my life just like I lived it before. Because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen. What happened yesterday is done. I don't even think about what happened yesterday. But I'm kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent here. So let's rewind, get back, and focus on living in the Spirit and understanding, how do I live in the Spirit? I can't do it. That's the truth. I can't do it. That's why when I was reading the Bible, I couldn't do it, because I can't do it. I could read the Bible. I've read the Bible. You tell me, if you're a Christian and you've been reading the Bible, do you live in this Spirit? Do you have perfect peace? Love drowns out fear. You have fear? You have fear. You don't have love. Because perfect love drowns out fear. If you have fear, you don't have love. 100% true. And how do I know it? Because the minute I returned back to God, the love that He gives came. And I talked about that in my transformation video, probably the first or second one. So check that one out, because it's really good. And it's a series. And it's on my YouTube, also on my podcast. Shameless plug. But guys, seriously, think about it. I want you to think. Ask yourself these questions. Now, I know that I can't change you. I can't make you listen to me. I cannot do nothing. I can't. Only you can take the time and think about it. Only you. And that's only if you really want to. The truth is, many, many people do not want to know God. They want to feel good. They want to read the Bible. They want to go and do what they want to do, but say that they know God. I'm telling you, I've seen it. I see it. And then they want to make me go back. And I'm not going back. I'm not going back to being sick and tired, because I can't anymore. Because I can't do it anyway. I can't. But living in the Spirit is really that trust, and not living in the world and seeing the world, like I said with that guy on MSNBC. It was just so mind-blowing. It was being in the world but not of it. Like, it makes no sense to me today, but it made sense to me probably a few months ago, probably a month ago. Wait, 3 months ago I've been born again? A little bit before that. I would live in the future, in the past. You know, and I would say things because others said it. And I always said, well, you know, as a Christian, I'm supposed to feel this way. So I would feel that way, or I would think that way. But as a child of God, I'm learning. And one cool part that I've noticed in the last day or two, that I have been able to live in the spirit a little bit more than living in my head. And now I truly believe that every thought is a lie. And for some reason that's taken a long time. I was told that women have bigger egos, and believe me, it's true. Women think that they're in control of everything. It is so crazy. I know, because I've seen it most of my life. And that was another thing that I realized, that I was different than a lot of other women around me, that I never thought that I could control everybody around me, but I really tried to control myself. And I wanted to try to teach everybody truth. Those were my two ego issues that are really big. And I'm dealing with them still. I'm still dealing with them. So they are big. And so I know why it's really hard for women to see truth, is because we think we're so in control and we know what's right and wrong. And I'm going to tell you what's wrong and how you're supposed to live, and you're going to do it. And if you don't do it, I'm going to get mad at you for not doing it and getting mad at me. You're mad at me for me telling you what to do? What's wrong with you? And I see it all the time. I dealt with my mother. That's why I had to forgive her. She doesn't understand. She doesn't know what she does. They mean well. They want to do what's right, but they cannot carry it out. But women is so deep, so deep. But with men, it's like they seem to be a little less emotional, and they're able to be more calm and more rational. Even the ones that have not returned back to God, they still have those moments where I've noticed. I'm going to tell you a cool story. So I was at work, and I was in the MRI, okay? And I came in, and one guy was supposed to leave soon, but it was a Spanish-speaking girl, so he stayed. He's a Spanish guy. And the other girl was a white girl. And she was the one doing the MRI. She's doing MRI, and the patient started freaking out. She started moving her legs and everything like that. And the girl said, oh man, she probably has to go to the bathroom. And she's like, that's it. I'm not doing anything. I'm just something like that. Like she had to go to the bathroom or something. She got upset. She's like, I said, I'm not doing it. She's freaking out. She's like, all right, I'm going to stop it. But she's got to wait a minute. Tell her to wait a minute. So the Spanish guy says, uno momentico, whatever, wait a moment. 20 seconds. So the scan finished. She's still talking. She's talking. I'm sitting next to her. The guy gets up calmly, goes in, find out what's wrong with her. I don't remember what it was. Maybe she had an itch or something. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. He let her do whatever. He gave her back the ball, like you can hit the ball. And if you want to get out of the MRI, which that lady didn't, she just freaked out. And that's another thing the girl was complaining about. Oh, she didn't hit the button and she's moving her legs. I mean, what's wrong? And she's just still complaining. He goes in, takes care. While she's complaining, he goes in, takes care of it, comes back. She's still going, that's it. I'm not doing any more. That's it. He comes back. He sits down. She goes, what did she want? And then he said, oh, she just had an itch or something. Said it in 2 seconds. No emotion, nothing. And she's bitching a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, she stops and goes back on her way. That's the difference between a woman and a man. It was like the craziest situation that I was like, wow, this woman is crazy, And then back to normal, and we're having a normal conversation. And he's just handled it. He never said anything about it. He never mentioned anything. He didn't get upset. Nothing. Didn't bother him. And that's how you become when we have that perfect love, because that's love. Screaming and yelling and getting upset about something that you can't stop. And it's a patient. You want to help the patient, right? You want to make sure that the patient can get the exam, That's what I would think. And I would think that would be more rational. And I'm not some amazing woman or anything. I would just think that, okay, let's find out what the problem is first before we start getting upset about it, And I just was realizing, like, wow, that's the nature of God was the man, and the nature of Satan was just like her. That I'm going to tell you what you need to do, and if you don't do it, I'm going to get mad. And if she would have gotten mad at the woman, she would have been mad at the woman, and the woman would have been like, well, why are you upset with me? This is what's going on. I needed help. Those things happen sometimes. Sometimes people need help. I mean, we don't know. Like, and I see this happen a lot. I see this with women often at my job. I mean, I work with another girl, and she's the same type of way. And I've never understood that. That never made any sense to me, especially in the work environment. Like, we're here to help them. It doesn't matter if they're hard to deal with. I don't know. And that never resonated with me. But there are things that resonate with me is when I didn't get what I wanted, I got upset about it. And that happened to me a lot. Often it happened. And so I know that was my ego. And the crazy thing was that nature of Satan, when that went away, when that anger part of it went away, it was so relieving. And it was like, that's living in the spirit. You know, that's part of living in the spirit, where it's not living in Satan's nature. It's living in the spirit. It's not living in the world. Now, we're not living of the flesh. And of the flesh is the woman, right? We come out of the woman, the flesh. That's what it means, the flesh, right? That makes sense. Not my flesh, but the woman, the flesh of the woman. We have to return back to the spirit of God, because as the woman, we start becoming like that flesh, like that woman, right? I started becoming like that, like my mother, right? I started becoming angry and resentful, and I knew what was right and what was wrong. And once I returned to the spirit of God, not the spirit of Satan, because that was the spirit I had. Spirit of Satan, anger, fear. Perfect love drowns out fear. Fear, resentment. Resentment was the sin, right? Resentment was the sin. That's the sin. And then God, as he's taken things away, he's allowing me to live in his spirit instead of those spirits of Satan that were inside me, that are still there, because he's still taking away some things. But now I get to notice who Satan is, and now I know who God is. And now that I know who God is, I know how he lives and how he thinks. I can live in his will, the spirit of God, because he's within me. He's not out there. He's not in the Bible. It's just people in the Bible are telling their stories. People in the Bible are telling who Jesus was. That's what people in the Bible are doing. Now, some of the wording I'm noticing is wrong on some of those, you know, and some I'm like, well, that's wrong. You know, I can't remember. There was something that I read and I was like, no, that's wrong. That translation, the way they translated it is wrong. So I'm starting to see that. I can't remember what it was. It was something like it was living in flesh, or living of the flesh, I think maybe that was it. Like in the flesh, or of the flesh, because we're of the flesh because we come born out of the mother, out of the body. I think that might have been it. I can't remember what it was. But I was like, that's wrong. It's in the Bible and it's wrong. It's not right. It's incorrect. Because it was a translation where they added one word that didn't need to be added. And so I see that sometimes. That's probably the one thing I've seen. Let me just be honest here. That's the one thing. I don't want to get off and be wrong on that. But I can see too where things in the Bible that I was interpreted one way. I'm like, no, that doesn't mean that, you know. And I want to make sure too that it's the Spirit that's teaching me these things, that it's not Satan telling me, because Satan knows the Bible better than anyone. He knows how to interpret the Bible any way he wants, right? If we could say that Jesus was angry, oh, that's perfect. Now you can have my nature of being angry. And there's an excuse, you know. Oh, Jesus didn't, he's going to come back. And when he comes back, then you'll know all the truth, right? That was another lie that I heard, you know, that I believed. He already came back. It's done. It's over. It's done. I already returned it. Now you can return back to God if you have earthly family who, of the flesh, they're living through the mother's flesh. You can return back because Jesus died, went to hell for us. And somebody said something, and I don't know if that's true, but he was saying that when he went down and he went to hell, he set the captives free. And the captives were the ones from the Old Testament, because remember, they didn't have Jesus, right? So they didn't have a way to go to heaven. They didn't have a way to go back to God. Remember, they didn't have that. They didn't have Jesus. And so that's what he's saying, what set the captives free means. What means that those were the captives, that Satan had them, because remember, Satan had the control. He was the God. He was the winner. Like he was winning. Right? That's why when Jesus died, that makes sense, right? When Jesus died, he changed that to where we can have that connection to God. But think about the Old Testament. They didn't have a connection to God. They couldn't get to God. And so Satan had them. And so the only way to be able to be righteous is because of Jesus dying. He's the only reason why we're righteous. That's why Jesus is very important. I have a friend who told me that Man, where was I going with that? I forgot. I forgot where I was going with that. So, I forgot where I was. So, so that whole thing of like, Jesus dying on the cross, it shows that it's over and that we can return back to God because, like I said, in the Old Testament, that's it. The Old Testament, they couldn't go to God. They didn't have Jesus. He didn't die. Oh yeah, somebody was telling me that that I don't think Jesus is important because I said that Jesus isn't God. And I'm like, that makes no sense at all. Because of course Jesus is important. I mean, if Jesus didn't die, go to hell, conquer death, conquer hell, conquer death, so that we can conquer death, right? Yes, he's important. Of course. How does that downplay who Jesus is? It keeps it to where you can stay stuck. And I don't understand why we want to live that way. And I know the road is narrow. I know it's narrow. Guys, I know how narrow it is. But God knows our hearts. And if we really want to return back to God, we can. There is a way. Jesus made that way. It's over. He died. That's it. It's over. I don't know what it's over means. It's over means, okay, it's over right now. I want you guys to feel real good. Read this Bible. Feel good about yourselves. And I'll be back. Like, you think he would deal with what he dealt with? I wouldn't do it. Shoot. No, but, and it's saying Jesus is a liar. It's not me. It's God in me. You can do greater things. Greater is he that is in you than that is in the world. Well, how has the world got control over us if we know God? Right? Questions. Asking questions. Why am I still angry? Why can't I live in the Spirit? I'm reading all these books and nothing's allowing me to do it. I'm listening to the preachers. I'm reading the Bible. I'm studying the Bible. I'm writing down scripture, remembering scripture. And my life is a mess. I'm still angry. Yeah, but I'm not drinking. Ooh. But it's like I can tell myself all these excuses. And I did. I'm no better than anybody else. I can't do any of this without God. I can do nothing without God. Nothing. And until I realize that I can't tell you anything that you listen to, if you really want to know God, you'll know God. He'll show you the way. It's just ask a question. Why am I not living in the Spirit? Why am I angry? I talk about this all the time in my podcasts. I always talk about it because it's everything that I needed to know. All the questions I was asking were important questions. Those are the two most important questions. Why am I angry? Well, that's the Satan nature. That's Satan's nature. I'm sorry. The Nathan of Satan. The nature of Satan. Tongue-tied. It's the nature of Satan, right? Why am I angry? Well, Satan's your father. Oh, shoot. You want God to be your father? Well, you got to repent. Oh, repentance. Okay. I think I've read about that. How often do we talk about repentance in the church? How often? How often does these awesome preachers? I used to love my preacher. I used to think he was so awesome. But he never talk about the things that are most important. Living in the Spirit. Living for God. Loving God. How do you love him? Right? Actually, that was a question that Jesse Lee Peterson just asked. How do you love God? Well, I never loved him. I didn't trust him. I didn't believe him on a lot of things. I was angry with God. How could I love somebody that I hate? Because I was like, I don't like this that you do. And today I don't even think about that. I don't even think about it because I don't have to think about it. It's weird. It's like I don't have to analyze it and think about it because it did nothing for me. Analyzing, thinking, reading the Bible, the only thing it did was keep having me ask more questions and ask more questions and ask more questions. And that was God knowing that I wanted to know the truth, that I wanted to know him, that I yearned for him. Yearn, that thing that you're looking for. That's because you're looking for the Father. You're looking to return back to God. And now I have that perfect peace. And the fear is gone. I don't fear talking to people. I don't fear my mom. I don't fear my dad. Sometimes I listen to Satan's voice telling me things about my mom or the church. So there's some things there that Satan is lying to me about, and I'm believing it. sometimes, knowing that it's wrong, but for some reason I still hold on to it. You know, my intellect does not want to die. That ego does not want to die. It is like, I'm not dying. But living in the Spirit, that's what we're talking about. The only way to do that is to return to God. And everything that you read in the Bible will make sense. You don't have to wait to die. I mean, I didn't have to wait to die. I don't know about you, but I'm going to tell you. It is so amazing living in the Spirit of God. It is so amazing taking a step by step and knowing that I don't control it. God does everything for me, and He loves me and wants the best for me. He's going to give me what I need, not what I think I need. And He's going to show me who I am, and He's going to get away that fake me. And I'm excited to see the next thing He takes away, because seeing every little thing and really seeing the world for what it is and not judging it, that's the interesting part, because Satan wants me to say, that's bad. He's a bad person. He's a good person. You know, he wants me to put a label on everything. Words, right? The words, the mouth, the tongue. It's the smallest word can set a big fire. I think there's one verse talks about that. I think somebody says it in some of the scriptures. I don't know. Somebody's just, you know, saying it. Proverbs or one of those Psalms or Proverbs. I can't remember which one. And I think it's Psalms. And, you know, they talk about the tongue, and that's what it means. These fake words and things that are going to happen tomorrow, and the things that happened 10 weeks ago. You worry about something that happened to me 20 years ago, you know? I talked about the thing with the AOC, how she's angry and hates men. 100%. I was the same way. And most women hate men. And it's so true, because we take something that happened 20 years ago, make it bigger than it was, and now every time a man would say something to me and he would look at me like he liked me, I took it as he wants to hurt me. And that was on me. And maybe one day I would have lied on a man. Maybe if I hated the Democrats so much and I was in politics, that I would say it was that Democrat guy. And that's why most of those women, especially Democrats, they're the most angry. It is very true. Check it out. Know your Democrat friends. They're usually more angry than the Republicans. The Republicans are getting angry, and that's what the Democrats want. That's what the devil wants. But notice the Democrats get so angry, and you're like, whoa. And usually I notice most of the women in my family are very angry, and the men are just like weak. They're very weak. And you start seeing the world for what it is. And but I won't be angry about it. I'm not angry about it. I know that it's not their fault, that it's the spirit in them. I understand it because I have it too. And I can see that spirit going. And now I can see it. Like I'll think something and I'll know, like, that's Satan. Like, before I didn't realize it was Satan. I just thought, like, I started believing those thoughts. Like, there were certain thoughts I was still believing. And now it's like, I know that they're all lies. And that's, like I said, it's taken me 3 months. So that's a big ego, right? And I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next. That's why I do like listening to Jesse Lee Peterson. He kind of helps a little and explains it, but it's like, I don't know it until it happens. So I don't really know it, but it does make me feel good that knowing that those little voices in my head are going to be gone. And you forget that you even lived out of them. And now there's only like 1 or 2 little things. Like, it keeps trying to bring back my mother and my family, politics. And there's this one person that Satan keeps bringing back up in my mind. It's like those 3 little things that are happening. But I can see them, and I can feel God taking out, you know, those spirits. I can feel it physically. And so it's really a cool thing. It's cool to live in the spirit because I get to do it longer than living in Satan. It's been really awesome. It's been an amazing few months, and I know it's just going to get better, but I don't know. I kept thinking about that today. And it's actually Monday. Usually I don't do these till Thursday, so I don't know if I'm going to do an extra one, throw it out, or if I wait. But it's the 15th. I guess 14th. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, and today is President's Day. And I never knew that President's Day was Lincoln's birthday, and they made it President's Day. So I don't know. I heard I should not celebrate it because of our new president. But it's President's Day. We've had some amazing presidents in the past. We have the most amazing country, and we could get it even better if we return back to God, because we won't hate. will love all, even our enemies will love. And I can't do it on my own, but it says that we're supposed to do that in the Bible too. And we can only do it when we have God. We have his love, returning back to God. I've talked about this before. Do the silent prayer. There's a silent prayer video on Jesse Lee Peterson's podcasts. It says, be still and know. I just did a podcast on be still and know. I'll tell you, it's been the best experience. To know myself is to know God. That's a good one too. If I know myself, I'll know God, and you can learn about who you are by listening to yourself. Do the silent prayer. It's where you're silent and you just let those voices kind of pass you, and God will take over and he'll answer your questions. I did it before I forgave, and I noticed I was calmer. I was able to be more logical, be more in the moment. It really helped. Even if you don't want to forgive, even if you think that I'm crazy, try it. Try it for 1 week. I guarantee you something will happen if you really want to know. If you want to be still and know God, that's how you can know him. If you want to be still and know yourself, or if you really want to know how to change, that's how we can change, by going to God. We can't do it on our own. We can do nothing on our own. I am seeing it 100%. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, thank you guys for checking out my video, A Life Too Sweet, on my YouTube channel, A Life Too Sweet Coaching. On my podcast, I've been lazy and haven't changed it, but I might just change it to A Life Too Sweet. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys think about knowing yourself, and living in the Spirit is biblical. Talks about it in the Bible. If you're a Bible thumping Christian, look at it. It's there if you just believe in the Bible. If you want to still go to church and do all those things, I guarantee you, I will guarantee 100%, if you do that silent prayer, it will help you. Okay, how about my guarantee? The Dana guarantee. A Life Too Sweet guarantee. I'm just playing. But thank you guys again for checking out my YouTube and my podcast, A Life Too Sweet. Thank you guys. A Life Too Sweet. And remember, God is good all the time. You ain't good. I told you before, you ain't good. Do the silent prayer and you'll see it. Thank you guys so much, and you have a great day.